Pretty important game for two programs coming up this Saturday. The last game in Jerryworld. I know we're sick of it. We're done with Jerryworld. We're done with going to Dallas for this game. It needs to become a home and home. I get it. It's over. Who takes the crown for the last time? The one who started this series off on top is actually coaching in this game again. That's Bobby Petrino, who started this series 3-0 with Arkansas against Texas A&M. But I think it's an important game for both teams. Both teams really trying to find consistency. Now, I think both teams kind of have an idea of what they want to be, but this game is an opportunity for both teams to kind of hammer that in. I think both teams want to run the football. I think both teams, if Reed is indeed the starter for A&M, which I think he is, have dynamic athletes at quarterback and can do a lot of different things. A lot of cool parallels and storylines, maybe a crossroads kind of a game. And I'm excited to talk about it. It's a fun rivalry. I enjoy going to this game in Jerryworld. I know I'm in the minority, but I actually like an excuse to go to Dallas, a place I'm not usually at. I like to go to Six Flags and eat at the restaurants and enjoy the city. Last time I get to do it, I'll have to find a new excuse to go to Dallas. Bobby Petrino reuniting with Texas A&M 1 year later. Does he have an extra chip on his shoulder? Maybe. He might. I hope he does. I want to see these teams at their best. I want this game to continue to be that wacky, close, nail-biting, fun? Not really. Pretty terrifying game for both sides. And end it with a bang. Let's see a great game. I think it's going to be close. So let's talk about both teams. Let's talk about where both teams kind of are in their season. We'll break down both teams and their matchups, and we'll give both teams keys to winning the game. And yes, I'm an Aggie, but I'll give Arkansas their paths to victory as well. And at the end of this video, I'll give you my score prediction. So make sure you guys like and subscribe. It'll help me greatly. I appreciate you guys for being here. Let's talk about this game. So let's talk about where this game kind of lands for both teams. For Arkansas, they start 3-1. Very easily could be 4-0 right now. That Oklahoma State game was one where they really just lost it by way of making mistakes and making more mistakes than the other team. Even though they largely outplayed Oklahoma State in pretty much every statistical category besides just game-altering mistakes. So a 3-1 team. They have A&M right now, but then they have Tennessee, Ole Miss, LSU, Texas, and Missouri still on the schedule. If they can win versus A&M, they could be looking at a 4-win, potentially SEC season, and that comes at the hands of a Sam Pittman hot seat talk going into the year. Obviously, things have kind of gone south after their really, really good 2021 season. So it's a good start, and if they can win this game, it shows that they can maybe compete for a couple other wins on this SEC slate that looks very daunting. But it could be a strong season for Arkansas that sets the program off in the right direction. Now for A&M, obviously they're also 3-1. Oh, and Arkansas is coming off that big road victory versus a down Auburn, but you still won on the road versus an SEC opponent. A&M can say the same thing. Their best win on the schedule right now is a road win versus a very much down Florida team. Both are kind of the signature wins on the year. So for A&M, you kind of have some more manageable games after this, but this one comes at a time while the season is still very much alive. You're 3-1. You have those manageable games. You win this one. You go into a home game versus a Missouri who's been struggling lately. You feel like your chances of overachieving in year one under Mike Elko are very, very much still alive. So, whereas it's not a hot seat, kind of a pressure-packed game for A&M, there's still a lot riding on it. And obviously, you want to win every game. But talking in terms of the whole season kind of zoomed out, that's what it means for A&M. But overall, if you're going to say one team has more pressure in this game, kind of a fun buzzword, which team has more pressure, I would say it's on Arkansas because of the Pittman situation, the rest of schedule outlook, the fact that this is one of the less daunting opponents left, whereas A&M is in a year one and still has some more manageable opponents they could beat down the road. Not easy, but manageable. Games like Auburn, South Carolina, Mississippi State. LSU has not been great this year, and like I said, Missouri's been struggling a little bit. This game opened with A&M as a 6-point favorite and has dwindled down to a 4-point spread in favor of A&M. Sharps hammering the generous 6 points given to Arkansas. Rightfully so, especially just considering how crazy and close this game typically is. It's usually within a score. So, I mean, it makes sense if a team, the underdog's going to get 6 points in the game, you just hammer that. And Arkansas has been good. They have some really good stuff going on right now. And talking about how this game's wacky, I expect nothing less this year. It's the last iteration of the game at Jerryworld. I think the players are aware of that. I think the players like playing in an NFL stadium. It brings an extra level of energy to the team, I think. And that's maybe why the game is always so crazy. Maybe more mistakes, maybe more bounces of the ball in these kinds of games. And I expect that yet again. I expect a close game once again. So let's talk about Arkansas. We'll talk a little bit about A&M after. If you follow me, you probably know a lot of my thoughts about A&M, but we'll go through everything in this video just to get it on the table for this game. But Arkansas, man, I mean, they started strong. They feel good. They feel like they have a strong running attack. They could be 4-0 right now. They have some dynamic players on offense, a really good front seven, a growing back seven that is, without two of their best players right now, and it played really well versus Auburn. And we'll talk about that all in a second. I want to start with Taylon Green. One of the most intriguing players in the country right now, in my opinion. Maybe that's because I'm focused on Arkansas. But a player that can do a lot of things on a football field. Let's talk about some of his strengths. Dynamic athlete at quarterback with elite size. I think he's 6'6", 230, runs all over the place, long strider. Of his 325 yards rushing on the year, 200 of those yards have come off of 16 quarterback scrambles, which is improvisation, of which 15 have gone for 10-plus yards. So he scrambled 16 times, and all but one of them have been explosive plays. So he makes things happen with his legs. Unassuming speed and wiggle. He typically catches defenders taking bad angles at him because he's so deceivingly fast for being a long striding kind of a player. He can stick his foot in the dirt and change direction on a dime. He'll run sideline to sideline on a given play, on a given scramble, and he can really confuse opposition in pursuit with just how quickly he can do that given that length. So he baffles defenders. He's deceptive with his speed, and he will scramble. He'll zone read. He'll extend plays. He does all that stuff really, really well. He has a hammer of an arm, and he absolutely showed that versus Auburn in that play where he was rolling left, his weak side. He gets his hips around, and he flicks a ball 60 yards in the air, caught by Isaiah Satenya for a really, really impressive touchdown throw and catch that really, really stamped that game in for Arkansas. That was a very, very impressive play. Just a super strong arm, and he's really an X-factor type of a player. Yeah, he can have a bad moment in a game. He can have a bad stretch in a game, but then he can make heroic plays like that. He can really be a game changer for an offense, and you can say that about any quarterback, but he really has that where he can be bad. He can just turn it around and be a total menace for a defense to take care of. You can never relax against a player like Taylon Green. He's really fun. But he also comes with some weaknesses, as do a lot of players, but I think the biggest issue has been the lack of consistency. He's just not able to get into and stay in a rhythm. Accuracy is not consistently there. It's all going to come down to consistency. He tends to throw balls high at times, just struggles putting balls where they need to be consistently. He's thrown balls behind receivers. He has 4 interceptions in the last 3 games. He's been throwing some picks. He fumbles. He's had 5 fumbles on the year so far. So is it safe to say he's feast or famine right now? I think the main key to the Arkansas offense overall right now is finding quarterback consistency, and with that would come getting more receivers involved in the game. And we'll talk about the receivers in a second. I want to talk about maybe their second most impressive weapon right now, and that's running back Jaquindon Jackson. Strong, hard runner, welcomes contact. He's a good low-gear runner. He can push piles. Averaged 9.8 yards on 15 carries versus UAB. 6.2 yards versus an experienced Oklahoma State defense on the road. Came down to earth a little bit versus Auburn for a 3.4 average on 22 carries, but still good in short yardage situations, getting 2 goal line touchdowns. He's a really good back, and they're going to use him a lot. He's really the guy they're going to use the whole game, and they'll just put the other 2 guys in at spells. We'll talk about those 2 guys briefly. The first backup is Rodney Hill, smaller back at 5'10", like 185. Been serviceable in minimal carries. But in Auburn, we saw them use the bruiser, a guy that I really like watching, the true freshman Braylon Russell, a massive 253-pounder. Got 9 carries versus Auburn, had 1 14-yard run, had a 7-yard reception. I love a bruising running back. We'll see if they go back to him versus A&M. I have a feeling he's going to earn that second running back spot. I thought he looked pretty good. We'll see what happens there. They're going to lean on Jackson the most, though. And they're going to lean on that offensive line that is much improved from a struggle bus of a year last year, largely rebuilt through the portal. And it's a newer group. And I think that has shown at times. They're really good in the run. Physically, in their individual matchups, they're solid. They're a good offensive line. But what kind of brings them down to average, in my opinion, is the fact that they are so new together, a bunch of new players coming together, and under a new system under Bobby Petrino, they're kind of struggling in communication. They struggle in blitz pickup. They struggle in assigning man to blitzer, man to rusher, and that goes for the quarterback and the running back as well. There's a lot of leakage on blitzes for Arkansas, and that has been one of the problems with their offense. A lot of times, Taylor Green's not able to really get his eyes up because of the blitz coming right at him, sometimes untouched because of that lack of communication. But overall, a much improved offensive line. They're averaging 240 yards rushing per game, and some of that comes from Taylor Green scrambling, maybe 50 yards a game come from that, but still a good offensive line that A&M's going to have their work cut out for them with, and we really hope that A&M's front four, who's really good, can kind of slow that down a little bit. But I do look for Elko to be able to exploit that, confusion they kind of have picking up blitz, because Elko's known for his diverse blitz package. So we'll see how he handles that, and I think that could be an area that A&M could potentially exploit. But we'll have to see there. They've improved a lot, and as they learn the offense, learn their assignments, get more comfortable, they could really start stepping up soon. We talked about receivers a second ago, and that conversation, and this is kind of a detriment and a positive, the wide receiver group has kind of started and ended with Andrew Armstrong. He's an absolute elite talent, big target, good hands, athletic. He can do it all, but he's really kind of their only go-to option at receiver right now. They have targeted the massive Tyrone Broden. He has the second most targets on the team pretty comfortably, significantly below Armstrong, significantly above the third most targeted player in Satenya, but he's had trouble just reeling the ball in. Some drop issues. He's had, I think, 24 targets, but only 7 receptions. He's a 6'7" target, which really can help a quarterback that tends to sail balls. He throws the ball high a lot. It's supposed to help him out, but he's just not coming down with the ball, so he's not really been a great option. But I do think they're going to want to get Satenya or even some other receivers involved in the game. Satenya's a dynamic player. He was on my scouting report last year when he was kind of just coming into his own as a returner, but he's a really, really good player. He had that crazy contested grab, probably had his best game of the year versus Auburn, only has about 16 targets on the year. They're going to probably start to use him more. They're going to need to. But the player that I'm worried about, and if you just look at a box score, you might not agree with this because he hasn't shown it yet, is Luke Haas. He's a freshman tight end who bust onto the scene last year before injury, cut his season short, and he just hasn't been involved with the offense this year. But according to Pittman, and if you watch the film, a lot of plays where he's the primary target happen to have been plays where Arkansas is giving up pressure and they're just unable to get him the ball. And if you watch him, he gets open a lot. So I hope this is not the game where he finally figures it out, or the offense finally figures out how to involve him, because he can make you pay. And we saw A&M struggle with a really good tight end in Fannin at Bowling Green, one of the best tight ends in the country, actually, at Bowling Green last week. Let's hope that doesn't happen again this week, because they're itching to get him more involved. But overall thoughts on their offense, this is an offense that is yet to really find their rhythm. Some really dynamic players, some really good stuff, some really good spurts. I think their best moment of the year was like a game-sealing 6-minute drive at the end of that Auburn game where they just said, okay, we're just going to run the ball. We're just going to run the freaking ball. And they ran it all the way down and scored and really capped that game off, gave Auburn no juice left in that game. And that's when they were at their absolute best. And they have some really explosive plays at times. They can do that stuff. But aside from that drive, have lacked consistency. The quarterback-running back duo of Green and Jackson can really be an elite rushing duo. But the lack of consistency in the passing game really allows teams to sell out for the run, and I think A&M might do that. Just don't give up anything deep, but really set out for that run. Make him throw accurate balls. The most threatening aspect of the offense is Taylor Green in open field, though. Dude can really, really make things happen. We want to hammer that in here. And Jackson's a really, really good running back. But combined with a decent O-line, this offense just finds a consistent passing game. It could be really, really good. Really exciting stuff happening there, but they got to just put it together. 11 turnovers on the short season, interceptions and fumbles. Just got to clean that up, and they could be pretty damn good. Let's talk about their defense. They've done a really good job stopping the run through 3 games. Now, that does include, I think they're averaging 82 yards given up in the running game through 4 games, which is crazy. That's really freaking good, but that does include a 7-yard rushing game by Arkansas Pine Bluff. I said Arkansas Permian Basin earlier. What am I talking about? Arkansas Pine Bluff. 7 yards given up in that game on the ground. But it's still been a definite strength through the other 3 games. They have a huge defensive line led by a pair of upperclassmen, 320-pound defensive tackles, the both of them, and the 6'7" Landon Jackson, who feels like he's been around at defensive end for Arkansas forever at this point. I feel like I see him every year. They have a pair of really athletic linebackers, including former 5-star Xavion Sori Jr. out of Georgia. Really good player, really athletic, a lot of speed at the linebacker position. They've been stuffing the run. They've been doing a lot of things. But as good as they've been at stuffing the run, the Arkansas defense has really yet to make a massive impact rushing the passer, and this is kind of an issue that A&M's had too. But their most sacks and hurries have come from that Arkansas Pine Bluff game in game 1. Only 6 hurries versus Auburn, although they did get 2 sacks on the game. Probably more to be desired there, but they definitely have the athletes up front to do it. They have serious athletes up front. But I think what has Hog fans so excited about the prospects of this defense is their emerging secondary. Yes, it emerged versus a very much struggling Auburn quarterback room, but they are coming off of a 4-interception game, 2 of which came from the SEC Defensive Player of the Week in TJ Metcalf, who also recorded probably his best play of the game, a touchdown-saving strip on an Auburn player that saved 6 and got them the ball back. Auburn had a really bad quarterback situation. They quite honestly gave Arkansas the ball at times, and I think Hog fans would agree with that. But nonetheless, if the Arkansas secondary, who is actually without 2 key players right now, can build off that performance, you could actually see a really tough SEC defense because they have the bodies, they have the dudes. They put it together, and the secondary becomes consistent, and that front 7 can get to the quarterback. It could be a complete defense, guys. Again, let's hope it doesn't all come together this game. That's what we're hoping for as Aggies. But we talked about Arkansas. I'm going to review some of the A&M stuff we're looking at before we get into keys to the game and my score prediction. Like and subscribe if you haven't by now. I really appreciate you guys being here. A&M comes off that ugly Bowling Green game where they weren't terrible overall, but they just showed a couple of weaknesses and had a back 7 that, in my opinion, just didn't play up to their standard, especially down the stretch of that game. The young Marcel Reed showed his youth at times, which largely led to the inability to finish drives and forced A&M to settle for 4 red zone field goals. Now, make no mistake, I don't think it was a terrible game by Marcel Reed. He did a lot of good things in the game. His running ability is much needed. He did complete some passes in that game. He had identical stat lines to the Florida game, as Elko pointed out in his presser. It wasn't all bad. But I think he missed out on 3 to 5 plays that really could have changed the way we feel about that Bowling Green game, that really could have put A&M in the end zone. A couple of those plays were touchdown plays that he just missed, either by bad ball or just not progressing through reads. So look for that to improve week on week. He's in his second start. He's a redshirt freshman. He has time. He has tools. In the game, A&M's strength in the trenches on both sides of the ball continues to be solid. That was persistent through the Bowling Green game. Good on both sides of the ball, defensive line and offensive line. Offensive line has been a strength of the team the whole year pretty much, and that was the case outside of the first quarter versus Bowling Green. A&M will definitely look to keep that running game up against a really good Arkansas run defense, and they'll do it with a stable of good running backs. We know about them. Le'Veon Moss is the lead back, but there's not too much of a drop-off when you go down to Amari Daniels, who's a really, really good change of pace back, who's put on 10 pounds this year, and he looks it. Really good running back stable. You won't see running backs take more than 3 or 4 plays at a time. You'll see them rotate through the bodies, and you'll see E.J. Smith at the tail end of that rotation getting maybe 5 to 10 carries a game. So really good running game. They got to build on it. And for A&M at quarterback, I do expect it to be Marcel Reed again, given the nature of Connor's AC sprain, given that he wasn't suited out last game at all when he was suited out the game before. I just think it's going to take a few weeks for him to come back and even be an option, so we'll revisit that later when it's the time. I really think it's Marcel this week. Connor will probably be listed as questionable, but I don't think he plays. Marcel is actually similar to Taylon Green in a lot of ways. Dynamic athlete, can make people miss in the open field, although he's more of a juker making individuals miss, whereas Taylon Green's more of a cutter and can just change direction and kind of confuse defenses that way. Both have really strong arms, though the ball has gotten away from Marcel at times. He's thrown balls in dirt. He's thrown balls just inaccurately at times. Still learning how to go through his progressions through live action. Kind of struggled looking at blitzes or feeling pressure, just making the decisions there in the snap decision-making process that quarterbacks have to have. Now, where Marcel does have an advantage over Green, where maybe Green's a little bit more of a dynamic runner, Marcel has definitely taken care of the ball in 2 games, and he hasn't thrown a pick. He hasn't fumbled the ball, knock on wood. That has gotten him in trouble at times. He has kind of frozen and opted to rush or tuck the ball a little bit too quickly at times. Really prioritizes taking care of the ball. I think he has some room to cut it loose a little bit more, so we'll see if he progresses there in this game. What the A&M offense really needs is that progression. They need progression in the passing game. There's been a lot of talk about how the Aggie wide receivers are not performing, not getting separation, how we're not scheming them open. And like I was just getting at versus Bowling Green, I actually thought the receivers played a really good game, especially Noah Thomas. I thought guys were open, and I thought you had, like I said, 3 or 5 opportunities to really get some chunk plays through the air that the young quarterback who's just working through things and learning missed. And I think you have a chance to improve on that game on game, given that you're not making the big critical mistakes. So you got to work on that. That's the next progression. You want to get these receivers involved, man. I for one, have not sold this A&M wide receiver room. I'm still on them. I still think they have a lot more to show. Now, I don't think this room will be ever considered elite, but you have guys like Noah Thomas, Cyrus Allen, Jabri Barber, who I think is going to get his biggest share of snaps this game that we've seen all year. His first game was versus McNeese, 8 snaps, 20 snaps versus Florida, 35 snaps versus Bowling Green. I think we're going to see him at full go this game. I want to see him cut loose. I want to see more Terry Bussey. And Theo Mellon-Orstrom has been targeted twice this year. Both have been impressive touchdown plays. One was a contested grab over a defender. We need to get Theo Mellon-Orstrom more involved in the passing game. And I think the next level to this A&M offense right now is play action and opening that up. Versus Bowling Green, you saw A&M use the most play actions they have used to date on the year. Through the first 3 games, they had run 12 play actions. In the Bowling Green game, they ran 10. They were 7 for 10 completion rate on play actions for 97 yards and the 2 touchdowns on the game. Colin Klein, run first, a run-based offensive scheme, really creative in the running game, really cool stuff with the offensive line that he does. He plays off of play action. At Kansas State, he was known for throwing out 20-plus play actions a game, and I think that's the next evolution for this Aggie offense that we will see versus Arkansas. I think there's going to be a lot of play action this game, and I think that's how you get some of these receivers involved in the game. And I want to see more short passes. Marcel's been good at those. Let's see them keep that up. Let's see them progress to that next level, and that is a complementary passing game to a strong rushing attack. The Aggie defense, the Aggie back 7 needs to bounce back this game. There were just too many egregious busts versus Bowling Green, bad play recognition at times, taking eye candy at times. I'll give Bowling Green credit. They had an amazing game plan, a veteran offense. A&M's defense needs to improve upon that and use that as fuel and just film material to improve upon. Look, I feel good about the A&M back 7 personnel. Think about where we were last year where you couldn't find a corner. You couldn't find 2 corners you could field and feel good about it. I feel like you have good players. I feel like you have depth. But keep in mind, guys, bunch of new players. Even the guys that have been here, like Dalton Brooks is stepping into a bigger role. Javen Thomas is stepping into a bigger role. You have Des Ricks in his first college action. You have Marcus Radcliffe, who's making a tremendous jump from San Diego State to SEC football. And you have a new defensive scheme to go on top of that will kind of, give guys like Bryce Anderson and Torrin York a little bit of a learning curve. Oh, yeah, and you still have 2 transfer linebackers that you're playing and a young Damian Sanford that is really in his first college action right now. A bunch of new out there. I haven't really reflected on this up until this point. They still have to come together and figure things out, and I think we saw that versus Bowling Green. Now, they have an opportunity to do that versus Arkansas, who will test them in some similar ways. They're going to run play action in their own right. They're going to take some shots in their own right. They're going to get it into open field, and where we saw A&M struggle bringing guys down, recognizing plays quicker and efficiently reacting to them, you have a chance to improve upon that versus Arkansas. I feel really good about the front 4. The defensive line is awesome. It's pretty deep. I think there's a little bit of a drop-off in the interior if Regis or Turner aren't in the game, but I do think Rodas Johnson is coming on as a backup defensive tackle. Look for him to make an impact when he's in the game. He made a big impact in Bowling Green in limited snaps. Defensive ends, you have great depth there. Going to lean on those guys. You're going to have to slow down a rushing attack. You're going to have to get pressure, but at the same time, maintain gap integrity with such a dynamic quarterback scrambler in Taylon Green. But I think they're up for the challenge. It's not the biggest defensive line. I say that, but they're like averaging 295 pounds apiece. But you don't have those 320-pound bruisers there. You have great athleticism there. So I look for them to be one of the keys to slowing down Taylon Green and really being disciplined and also get after the quarterback. Easier said than done, right? All right, let's talk about the keys to the game, and then I'll finally give you my score prediction. For A&M first, then we'll do Arkansas. Defensively, I think it's all about containing Taylon Green. He's the X factor like we talked about. He's one of the most fascinating players on A&M's schedule right now because he can kill you, but he has also made some critical mistakes. You can't let this become the game where it all comes together for him. Force him to pass the ball. Take away the deep ball. Force him to be accurate in the intermediate stuff. Pressure him, but not at the expense of contain. Easier said than done. Once again, I know. But you got to be up for the challenge versus a player like this. You can't let him find that rhythm. Make it a tough day for Taylor Green. I think they're going to have some success running the football, but I trust A&M's defensive line to not let that pop off. We will see. Offensively, continue to lead on the run. I think it'll be there, even against a good Arkansas front. I'm really, really liking this offensive line. Hats off to Adam Cushing, the new offensive line coach. Once again, he's really improved this group who's been struggling for a few years. But like we talked about earlier, unleash the play action this game. I want to see Bussey, Allen, Barber, all active this game. I want to see them running around this game. The run game has been so good, and it's even better now with Marcel Reed. All they need is a complementary passing attack, and I think that comes by way of play action. I'll put an over-under of 15 play actions this game, and I'll take the over there. That's what it's all about. I think you got to get that passing game going. I think play action is the key. Keys to the game for Arkansas. Offensively, I think it's getting Taylor Green and runners in open field. A&M has been good at stuffing the run at the point of attack at the first level, but they have struggled with outside contain and in the open field. Zone reads, option plays, screens can really make A&M pay. Establish that dynamic running attack, and then use Taylor Green's hammer arm on rollouts in the deep game, because A&M has struggled very much in the last 2 games against play action and giving up leakage deep. So establish that running game with Taylor Green at the forefront of it, and then attack A&M deep. Defensively, get to Marcel Reed. Force him to pass as well. He has not been at his best when he's pressured or even just sees a blitz. Use it and force him to make the right decision. He gets tuck happy. He rushes a little bit too quickly when he's pressured. Now he's young, and he can learn stuff as he progresses and gets comfortable. He could turn it on. I think he's more at a point in his career where he can pick up a lot game to game because it's his second start. But you need to test that if you're Arkansas. See where it's at. You can make A&M one-dimensional again and really increase your chances of winning this game by just making A&M a run-only team. So now, having said all that, my score prediction. I'll just tell you what it is. I have A&M winning this game, guys. I know, I'm a homer, so take that info what you will. I'm going to go 31-27 Texas A&M, and here's why. Though A&M has been imperfect on the year, they have had inconsistency kind of across the board, different games, different areas. What they're not doing is making critical game-altering mistakes. Arkansas has been doing that, and I think that's kind of been their biggest bane on the year so far. So I'm going to lean on that dynamic, along with I think A&M is still better in both trenches, and I'm going to give A&M the very slight advantage in this game. It's going to be a close game. Either team can win. If Arkansas wins this game, I wouldn't be the slightest bit surprised. Really a toss-up in my mind right now, but that factor has me leaning A&M slightly in this game. Now, if A&M puts it all together in this game, if Arkansas puts it all together in this game, there's a world where either team can win by a score or 2. But I just think that they're both kind of still figuring things out. They're going to meet in the middle, and A&M gets a close win. So, guys, with that, let me know your score prediction. Let me know how you feel about this game, whether you agree or you disagree with me. Give me your thoughts on the game. Last game in Jerryworld. Are you going? I'll be there. If you see me, come say what's up. Give me a fist bump. Even if you're a Hog fan, I want to say what's up to you guys. Thank you guys for watching the video. Like I said, give me your thoughts. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. I'll see you on my live show Thursday night where you guys can take the floor, call me, go live on YouTube and tell me your thoughts about this game. Give me your score prediction for a chance to enter the Hall of Fame. Those that get the score prediction right on the game, excluding myself, will be immortalized on this channel, on this board right here. We have one entry already. Tune in Thursday for a chance at that. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you at the game. Gig 'em.